continuing our session. Just a quick check before we start the today's session. Hope I am audible to you all, and also my screen is visible to you all, right? Just type it in the chat window if you have any. Saranath, okay, and how about Kumar and others? Please type it in the chat window, or you can unmute yourself and you can talk. Okay. If you have any questions, right, you can unmute and you can ask questions. Okay, today we will start with understanding what is statistics. So we all know very well. Okay, we have been doing a lot of data analytics, even our day-to-day life, right? At office, you do a lot of data analytics, right? Probably you might be doing at the very basic level of data analytics. We have access to our customer data, and we were told to do some kind of analysis and generate some reports and share it with them. If you take any organization, they have a different line of business, right? Different departments are there, and each department have their own MIS reports, management information system report. Those reports help them to measure, monitor, and control the uncertainty, or where they are going. How they can make some improvement. Are there any room for improvement? Is there any they can cut down the cost? Likewise, different departments is nothing but the lines of business. They have their own objectives, right? In order to make sure that they're all adhering to their respective objectives, they need reports. Those reports can help them to understand where they stand. See, in the classic example is medical, in the field of medical, right? So if I want to make sure that how healthy I am, right, I need reports. Even doctor, they go by the reports, right? Just by looking at you, doctors cannot say that you are a healthy person, right? Right, so they want to see the reports, blood reports, or additional medical reports that help them to understand how well the patient is doing. Similarly, each department in an organization, they need the reports. These reports will drive their decisions, right? What course of action they are supposed to take, and where they need to focus more, where they need not to focus more, right? So those kind of analysis, we have done it. Even the organizations, most of them, they are doing it, right? So now the question is, so we have data, and I have an Excel tool. That's a basic software, right? Everybody is using Excel. Everybody is familiar with using Excel. Maybe you are not very good at writing the macros in Excel, but basic analysis you can do with the statistics. Even a person have no programming experience can also do analysis in statistics. So in using Excel sheet, right? So they do analysis everything, but how statistics is helpful, right? See, we have the data, we do the basic analysis. If you know statistics, you can do you can do more analysis, right? With the help of statistics, you will get to know where you need to focus more, where inconsistencies are there, right? And and also you can predict the probability. We have something called probability theory in statistics, using which you can predict the you can make a prediction, and using machine learning algorithm, okay, which is nothing but statistical models, you can use it to predict the future, right? So what exactly statistics all about? It is the science of learning from data. It's the science of learning from the data, and of measuring, controlling, and communicating the uncertainty. See, different definitions are floating around the internet, but this is the basic idea of statistics all about. Okay, in statistics there are two branches. Other one is the descriptive statistics, and the other one is the what is that? The other one is called as the inferential statistics. right? So in statistics, there are two branches. There are two branches. One is the descriptive statistics. Another one is inferential statistics. The descriptive statistics is the very basic one, and it is very easy and interesting topic, descriptive statistics. Even inferential statistics also very simple one. But the hypothesis testing and the ANOVA test, one way ANOVA test, two way ANOVA with replication, without replication. Likewise, many tests are there as part of inferential statistics. Right. So compared to the inferential statistic, the descriptive statistic is very simple, very easy to understand. So as part of descriptive statistics, there are two branches are there. One is the measures of central tendency, measures of central tendency. One second, sorry. I started this recording, but still I don't rely on only one recording. I record it with other tools also. Just give me a second. Yeah, I forgot to do this one second. So this is the one, measures of central tendency, and the other one is the measures of spread. Measures of spread. Right? Measures of spread. So what we will do is we'll start with first understanding what exactly measures of central tendency is all about. What is measures of spread, right? So what exactly the descriptive statistics is all about, first of all. The descriptive is nothing but it is, right, let's say you are given a data. You wanted to get the quick gist of what that data is all about. Quick gist of, right? Quick gist or summary of the data. If you want to understand the characteristics of the data at a high level, right? We use aggregation, which is nothing but summarization, or the gist of the data, right? We perform descriptive statistics, right? So as part of descriptive, there are two branches. The other one is measures of central tendency, other one is measures of spread. So what exactly measures of central tendency? I'll make it very simple. Measures of central tendency. As part of measures of central tendency, we are very particular about the central location of the data. The central location of the data. I have something like 1, 2, 8, 5, 3, something like that, right? So I have something like, yeah. So 4 plus 1 is 5, 5 plus 5 is 10, plus 10, 20, 23, right? This is my, if I add all this value, 23, right? So this is 1 plus 2 plus 8 plus 5 plus 3 plus 4 divided by 6. What is 6? 6 is nothing but the number of data points. We use the notation n. N is nothing but the sample size. N is your sample size. If I say capital N, that is nothing but your population size. Population size. Usually, we don't use the entire population data. It is time consuming. We have different sampling techniques are there. Using the sample technique itself, we can infer the population. That is what we are going to discuss as part of inferential statistics. At this moment, what I did here, I just did some kind of average, right? I did average. In statistics, we call average as mean. Please keep in mind, okay? So in statistics, we use this term mean. Mean is nothing but the average. So 1 plus 2 plus add all the given values, given data points, and divide that by the total number of data points. 6. This is a very simple one. For example, I'll make it 4. Okay, let's say 24. And this is my 4. This is my average. So we use the sample average. Sample average, we use the notation X bar. Okay, don't worry about the notation at this moment. Okay, so we know very well the how to find out the average. Any even sixth standard, eighth standard student can also tell, right? So what is the average? So this we study during school time. So what is so big deal about it, right? What is so big deal about it? So now the question is, we know what is average. We study during school time. Can I use mean all the time? Or can I use the say? Can I use mean to understand the central location of the data all the time? See, if I plotted something like this, right? What is my mean? Mean is 4, right? Mean is 4 here. The mean is there in the middle, right? 4. And this 2 is here. 2 is appearing 2 time, and the 8 is above this, and the 5 is somewhere here, and 3 and 4 is falling exactly here, right? So this is what my mean. The mean is there in the middle. Okay. It is not always there in the middle. Okay, if that only if the data is normally distributed. Listen this term. Okay, normally distributed. Only when the data is normally distributed, the mean will be there in the middle. Okay, the mean will be there in the middle. The X bar will be there in the middle. Okay, when you plot the data, you will find the mean will be there in the middle. This is the central location. Okay, how far each value is away from the mean. That is what we are going to learn as part of measures of spread. You remember, right? The measures of spread. This is what I spoke about it. At this moment, you forget that also. So see, the reason being, why I started talking about this one is the measures of spread. We know what is average. Okay, in statistician, they use the fancy term mean to refer the average. So now the question is, this I studied during school time. So, what is so big deal about it, right? So now I introduce something called normally distributed. In the case of normally distributed, the mean value is there in the middle. This you would not have studied during the school time. Probably they would have taught you, but you cannot remember this now, right? You will not be able to remember this. In the case of normally distributed, the data, the mean will be there in the middle. Don't worry about normally distributed. I'll explain you in detail. So average, that is the reason why you need to understand when we are supposed to use mean and when we are not supposed to use mean. That is what you need to know. Okay. So that is what you will be learning in addition to what you learned during your school days. Okay, so now this is very simple formula. We are able to understand what is, there is a formula to compute the mean average, right? Fine. So next what we will do is, let's take some sample data. Let's say, 8, 5, 3, and 2, and 2, and something called 200. Let's see, these are all in terms of, let's 8,000, or let's say 48, or let me do one thing, 48,000, 45,000, and 43,000, and 42,000, and let's say 52,000. And I have something else called, let's say 5 lakh, 500,000, right? So when you look at this data, most of these values are close to each other, right? 48,000 is somewhat closer to this one is somewhat closer to this one, somewhat closer, somewhat closer. Though these values are little far, but compared to this value, right? Compared to this value, the rest of the values are somewhat closer to each other. If I plot this data alone, these 5 data points, right, it is kind of normally distributed, right? It is kind of a normally, the normally distributed will be somewhat like this, okay? The bell curve, you might have heard about this term, by from the QA guys, right? Quality assurance team, right? They use this term Bulker, or the HR folks. They use this term during appraisal time. You would have heard about this, right? You are falling plus or minus one standard deviation away from the mean, or you are two standard deviation above the mean, something like that. They would have explained you. So this is your normal distribution. Bell curve is also called as normal distribution. They use different terms. That is the reason why I specify all these uh, the terms, right? The equivalent terms. So some people, the Americans, when Gaussian, they say Gaussian distribution. Gaussian, GAA, Gaussian distribution. They'll ask you during the code walkthrough, or when you explain the model outcome, right? So they'll be asking you, they'll be asking you questions like, are the and what are these distributions are Gaussian? Are the given sample data is Gaussian distribution? Which is nothing but the normal distribution. They're asking you whether it is normally distributed or not, right? But if I include this value here, what will happen? If I include this value, this is abnormally very high value, right? This is not going to be normal distribution. It will be something like, right? Let's say you have, let's say this the lowest value is 42,000. Let me, whenever I open this, it is hanging. Just give me a second here. Just give me a second. My system is hanging. Whenever I use this tool, right? Let me check where the problem is. My God. Task manager. 1 second. So this is the one, right? A PowerSoft and VMM. This is system thing. I cannot keep desktop window manager. What is this window manager? Okay, I don't know why Python is running now. I will end this one. Oh, CP is full, 100% utilized. 1 second, I think something went wrong here. VMM consume too much of memory. Okay. Yeah, better let me use PowerPoint itself instead of this, right? Though I have more memory, it is struggling. And so I think some virus problem is there in my system. Suddenly something of 100%. Oh my God. Let me close this. Or maybe PowerPoint is the problem. Let us, it shows 100. Okay, let me just close this one also. Sorry guys, some issue happened here. Just give me a second, okay, I'll resolve it. Some problem with my, I just uninstalled my the antivirus software because it was quarantining my Python software. Okay, I don't want that to happen. Hence, I uninstalled my antivirus software. I think because of which it is causing this problem. I think, yeah, Python, I could see that it spawned multiple times. When the older version, we can kill the child process also. See, this is the root cause for this Python. Oh, that is the reason why the antivirus software is blocking this one. I think since it is open source, right? The open source software is one risk. It is more prone for virus attack. Just give me a second here. Performance. Oh, okay. See, now it dropped. Good. So, so the problem is not with the with this app. Let me just open the recorded recording software. This is very reliable one for recording purpose. Okay, so let us continue. I think something went wrong with my Python thing. Fine. So I discussed about the average and normal distribution. We discussed about normal distribution, right? What exactly the normal distribution? If the data is, if you don't have any abnormal value, it will be something like this, normally distributed. Like I said, 42,000 and 44,000, 46 and 45,500 or 44,500 and let's say 52,000. Here's something called 500,000. This is what an abnormal value in your given data set. But excluding this abnormal value, if you plot these values, your distribution will pattern will be something else. Your distribution pattern of this, let's say this is my salary data. The pattern or the distribution pattern of my data is somewhat normally distributed. Okay, it is normally distributed. And this is, if I include this one, it will be something like this. Sorry. It will be something like this, right? You will have something like this, and suddenly the 500,000, right? So you will have some more higher value. Okay, so this is skewed data. This is called your skewed data, skewed or asymmetric data. Asymmetric. This is also called a symmetric distribution. They use different term. Don't get confused. Symmetric distribution, normal distribution, bell curve, all these terms are same. And Gaussian distribution. Gaussian distribution. Gaussian distribution. All these terms are same. Okay. But this one is asymmetric distribution or skewed data. Why skewed data? Because of this abnormally very high value. All these values are somewhat closer to each other. But except this one, this is called your outlier. This is called your outlier. Outlier, right? The values that are extremely very high or extremely very low value also. For example, you have something called 2000, right? Not necessarily your outlier must be a very high value. It can be a smaller value also. Okay, smaller value also. Very smaller value. Okay, this is also called your outlier. Right? So this is on outlier. This is also an outlier. Extremely very high value, extremely very low value. If you have it in your data set, then your distribution will not be normal. It will be something asymmetric. Right? So now you understood what is outlier, the new term outlier. And if you use the mean formula, if you apply the mean formula to compute the average, right, what will happen is your mean will also get skewed. For example, if you take an average, right? So 42, 50, 45, 46, 44, if you take, let's assume that, let's say you are getting 44,000, right? Or 46,000 is your average. Let's assume that hypothetically, okay? 46,000 is the average X bar. But after including this, right? You will get more, 1 lakh, 12,000, something like that, 20. After including the outlier, or including the outlier in your average formula, right? 42,000 plus 44,500 plus 46 plus this plus this plus this. When you include the outlier in your average, right? When you do average, when you include the outlier, your mean value will also get skewed. Now you look here, this mean value is too much bigger than this one, right? After including the outlier, my mean value got increased. But after excluding the mean outlier, my mean value is reasonably good. So what do we conclude here? If you have an outlier in your data set, right? If you have an outlier in your data set, don't use mean. Don't use mean. Do not use mean. If you have an outlier in your data set, right? If you have an outlier in your data set, do not use mean. If you use mean on the skewed data, it is also called as skewed data. Skewed, what do you mean by skewed data? Outlier. The presence of outlier is there in your data set. Hence, it is called your distribution is skewed because you have outlier. If you use mean on the skewed data, your average will also be, skewed, very big one, right? So, come on. Supposing your friend wants to join your company as a data analyst, let's say his experience is 3 years, 3 years experience guy, and he is let's say he is asking you, hey, what kind of salary I can expect from your company on an average given my experience? Will you say this one or will you say this one? Obviously, we'll say this one, right? If you tell him, you are misleading him, right? You are misleading him, right? So this is the one, reasonable. But when you include the outlier, this one is increasing it. So what is the way out? So can I, if I have an outlier in my data set, do I have, do I, so don't I use mean all the time? Okay. But what you do is you need to check with your source system owner or the application owner. So whether this 500,000, this figure is, this value is correct or not. Is this a correct value or not? If he says, hey, no, man, so, there is a, typo here. We included additional zero here, right? It must be 50,000, not 500,000, right? Then you can fix it. Then you can include this data also in your mean formula, and you can rely on mean because you don't have any outlier now, right? Or if he says, no, no, man, you need to accommodate this outlier also because this is valid data because this guy came from Google. He worked with Google in the past, and we got a special approval from the vertical head. And we are giving this guy is drawing more salary because his experience and his past background. We are okay to pay more. So this is a valid outlier. It's something like sales, right? Most of the days, my sales is somewhat like this. On a specific day, right? Let's say and an auspicious day, right? The marriage parties suddenly they are storming into our restaurant. So what will happen? You did not expect that the marriage party people, right? They come and take food in your hotel. Suddenly, it's a kind of luck, right? So on that specific day, the sales was very high, right? So you cannot say this is invalid data. Yes, on the specific day, sales was very high. You cannot exclude this one. If it is a data entry mistake, you can correct it. And after correction, if you see, it is not a outlier value, then you can use it in your mean formula. It makes sense. But if this is a valid data, then you are not supposed to use mean. Okay. So what other measure can I use it? We have something else called median. Median comes for our rescue if the given data distribution is skewed. Okay, if the given data distribution is skewed, then you can use median. Median is not sensitive to outlier. In other words, median is resistant to outliers. So this also we studied at school time, right? Let's say to 4, 6, let's say 1 and 10. So if you right, so in this case, what if you have to compute the median? Median is nothing but the middle value, nothing but the middle value. Median is nothing but the middle value. Okay. So if you have to compute it manually, you need to sort the data in ascending order first. 1, comma 2, comma 4, comma 6, comma 10. And then if you cancel out the first and last, right? And then this one and this one, you are left with this value. This is what your median, middle value, right? That this is what your middle value. This is what your median. So in this case, what is my n? N is nothing but my sample size. What is the sample size? How many data points are there? 5. Supposing I have something like 12 is there. My sample size is 6, right? This is not an odd value, it is an even value. In that case, what we do is, here also we do the same thing, right? So what we do is 1 comma 2 comma 4 comma 6 comma 10 comma 12. But here what we do is we cancel the first and last, but we cannot cancel these two things. We need to take these two middle values and add them together and divide it by 2. 6 plus 4 is 10 divided by 2 is 5. This is what your median. If the sample size is in terms of even, right, you need to take the two middle values, and this is what your median. Okay. Now, let's say I have let's go back to the same example here. Okay. Let's take the same example. Instead of, let's, my manager told me very clearly or categorically, he told this is a valid data. Don't exclude. You need to include this one. But after including this, if you go and tell him, right, by using mean value, he'll say that's a bullshit. I cannot accept. Okay. So only way out is the median, right? If you sort out the data in ascending order, 42, but it's already, yeah, maybe, yeah, it comes here and 46 here. So what will happen is the first and last will get cancelled out in the case of median, right? And then the 44,500 and 45,500 will get cancelled out. Sorry, the next smaller value is, sorry, 44,500 and 52,000, right? These two will get cancelled. In the middle, you have something called 46,000 plus 45,500, right? So how much you will get? 91,500 divided by 2. So how much you will get? 45.5 something approximately. I use this term. This is nothing but approximate. Okay, approximately for 80, 90, 91 point, right? So 45.5 or 45.7 something. So if you tell your manager, though even after including the outlier, the median is 45.5 approximately, right? You'll be okay. But if you tell him like this, right, you'll say, man, bullshit, something wrong with you. So now you understood how helpful learning statistics, right? How helpful learning statistics to give the meaningful information to the stakeholders, right? If you don't know when to use a mean, when you are not supposed to use mean, right? What will happen is you tend to tell him, hey, on an average, the sale was 11,200, or sorry, 112K, right? So right, so they will get confused probably, right? The whatever the number that you are giving it to them, right, based on which they might tend to do, they might tend to make some other decision. Okay, in that case, what we do, we'll stock up more items, because last fortnight the average sale was 112K. So the next fortnight also we can expect more sales, somewhat similar to this. We'll stock up more items. See how this one is misleading, right? It impacts um, the decision, right? It negatively impacts the business decision by using the wrong measure on your data set. It negatively impacts the business decision. So they will tend to think, okay, man, we'll stock up more. So if you stock up more items than required, you will end up, more items lying idle in your warehouse, right? It is cost to the company, right? So what will happen is it will mislead. So that's why you should be, now you understood, learning statistics or applying the appropriate statistical measure, how it helps you to make the viable decisions, right? Business decisions. So when your data is skewed, use median. If your data is, let's say if you have the outlier, or if your data is skewed, then you can use median. If your data is normally distributed, that means you don't have any outlier, then use mean. As simple as that. Next, mode. What is mode? The most popular value. Most popular value. Okay, so let's say 2 and 5, 6, 8, and 2. What is the mode here? Most popular value, most frequently occurring value. It's nothing but the most popular value, 2 comma 2, right? So the 2 is the mode here. Since we have only one mode in this data, we call it unimodal. Unimodal. And supposing I have, something else called 6 here. I have two modes here, right? So this one and this one, these two are two modes. So in this case, what happens, right? You have 6 comma 2. So this is called your bimodal. This is called your bimodal because you have two modes. If you have three modes, that is called your trimodal. If you have multiple modes, that is called multimodal. Multimodal. So this also we studied school time. Okay, so what is so big deal about this? How can I use the mode in the business scenario? For example, I randomly sampled my customers, spend, my customers spend. Okay, 10 customers spend, I randomly sampled in my given data set. So one guy, spent 250K, another guy spent last 1 month data, other guy spent 150 and 125 and 280 and 295. Other guy spent 5,000 and 4,890. And some people, they spent 1,500, 1,600, something like that, right? So this is the randomly sampled 2, 4, 6, 8, 9, 9 customers amount spent in on my website. Okay, this is the purchase they made in the last 1 month. We randomly sample different customers' data, and with that we are able to record these values. And if I have to find out the mode, right? So in the case of mode, what we do is we do some kind of bucketing, binning. Binning, you might have heard about this term, right? Binning is nothing but bucketing. So during appraisal time, right, we would have heard about these terms, right? So in which bucket I'm falling in? Am I falling in the A or B or C or D? A is outstanding and good, and this one is meeting the expectations. This is, kind of needs improvement, right? Needs improvement, something like that. So which bucket am I falling in, right? So we might have used this term during the appraisal time, right? So similarly, what we do is, in this case, when you use mode, what we do, we create some kind of bucket. So, those customers spend less than 300. How many of them are there? So 2, 4, 5 customers, they spent less than 300, and those customers spent between 1,500 to 1,600. How many of them are two, right? And those spent more than 5,000, or 4,500. If you do bucketing, right? So you will find two customers here. So of these, right, which one is the most popular bucket? This is the one, right? Compared to all the other thing, the 5, this is the one has more number of customers are there in this bucket. Hence, this is the most popular value, right? So this is the most frequently occurring bucket. Okay. So this is how you are supposed to use mode in real time scenario, and this is how you are supposed to use the median and mean. It's very simple, right? Fine. Now you understood what is measures of central tendency. Any of I mentioned about geometric mean and all. So any of we are see here, it is not our intention to learn the entire statistics part, right? Whichever portion of statistics that are relevant to machine learning algorithm, we will focus that one alone. Okay, because statistics you cannot learn it in 2 months, 3 months, 4 months. Okay, so even for me, the PhD to get the doctorate, it took hell lot of time, right? Because of various factors, right? It took. It's not that so many topics are there. So not all the topics are relevant to the machine learning algorithm. Those things are very much relevant to our algorithm or the data science part, right? I train you on this one. It's just geometric mean. We are not going to look at this one. Okay. The next one is, as I told you, in statistics, two branches are there. One is the descriptive, other one is inferential. Within descriptive statistics, measures of central tendency and measures of spread. So far, we discussed about measures of spread. So what we to summarize as what of measures of central tendency, we understood if the data is skewed or if you have outlier in your data set, please use median. Don't use mean. As simple as that. And more, if you the most popular value or most the winner takes all. Okay, the winner takes all principle is applicable here. The next one is measures of spread. Measures of spread. We will see what is measures of spread. We are very particular about how spread out my data is. We know we learned about the normal distribution, right? And the skewed distribution also. Let's say my data. Let's say this is my data set. Let's say my manager gave me 3 different data sets. This is my data set A. Okay, this is my data set A. Okay, when I plotted my data set B, I get somewhat similar to this one. This is my data set B. My manager gave me 3 different data sets, and he doesn't know the ABCs of statistics. He wants me to do some kind of analysis and get some interesting insights from this. That's what he said. When I plotted the third data set, which is nothing but the data set C, the distribution is somewhat similar. So now tell me whether all these data sets are normally distributed or not. The data set A, data set B, data set C. Are they normally distributed? Yes. All these 3 data sets, or when I plotted it in the using histogram or something like histogram, I use the term histogram. You might not be familiar with this term histogram. You might be familiar with bar plot, right? So in the case of bar plot, you will find something like this, right? When you plot the data, depends on the data, you might get something somewhat similar to this, you might get, right? But when it comes to histogram, there is no gap between these bars. Okay, supposing you get something like this and there is no gap between one bar to another bar. If you join the corner of this one, right, you will get you will get to know, okay, this is my normally somewhat normally distributed. In real world you will not get the exact normal distribution. It will be somewhat normally distributed. Okay, so when you look at this bar plot, right, in your mind you will draw this one. Oh, this is somewhat normally distributed. So likewise, when you look at these 3 different data sets distribution, this is also normally distributed. This is also normally distributed. This is also normally distributed. Then why the hell this one is bigger than this one, and why this one is bigger? Because of the nature of the data, what you have it, right? In the data set C, the data is right. Few data are somewhat closer to, so right, most of the data sets, most of the data are far from the mean value. It's a normal distribution. For all these three distributions, the mean will be there in the middle. But some values are far away. This is 10, okay, or 5 or something, okay, or minus 5 or something. This value is far away from this mean value, or not necessarily 5, let's plus 5, something like, okay, this is for, let's say your mean is 8, okay, this is way below this value plus 5, right? And some values are, this one is 10 and this one is 7. But if you look at this data set A, most of the values are very closer to the mean value, 7, 8, 10, right? Most of the values are clustered around this mean value. Hence, the spread is less here. But when you look at this data set, right? When you look at this data set C, the spread is too wide. Spread is too wide because the values are too far from the middle value. Some values are too, way above this mean value, and some values are way below this mean value, right? Right. So that is what we can see it in this case. But similarly, in this case, this distribution is far better than this green colored one, the yellow colored one. This one also, wide, right? Even this distribution is also wide compared to this distribution. Data set A's distribution is much lesser spread, right? Much spread. How scattered the data, right? The compared to all these three data set, the data set C is scattered, right? It's scattered here and there. The B is also scattered, but it is far better than the data set C. And but when it comes to the data set A, most of the values are clustered around the mean value. Hence, the spread is very less. Spread, they say, dispersion, measures of dispersion. They use different terms, measures of dispersion, spread, something like that. So now the question is, can I rely only on the mean, median, or mode? So in the, a while back, we discussed about all these three measures as part of measures of central tendency, right? Central tendency. We learned about these three measures. With that itself, can I make decisions? Sometimes, right, mean, median, mode alone is not sufficient to make business decision. Let's say you have an outlier in your data set, you have used median. Still, median is not the only measure which is helpful for you to make the business decision. In addition to the central tendency, measures of central tendency, you need to apply the measures of spread. What are the measures of spread is available? To measure the spread, right? How spread? We have something called range, and like mean, median. These are all measures, right? As for a central tendency, these are the measures you can use it. Depends on the type of the data, right? So here, distribution pattern of the data. Okay, here, standard deviation. Standard deviation. Standard deviation. The next one is coefficient of variation. That's it. Only these three I'm going to discuss. Don't worry. Okay, very simple one. Please pay close attention. You will find it very interesting. Okay, it will be helpful for you even in your day to day. The data analysis, right? You can apply this, and you can tell the management, hey, these are my observation. With that, you can tell, you can suggest some new decision, or you can recommend, right, based on your observation. By applying these measures, you can suggest them, hey, instead of doing like this, right, you can apply this measure, apply the right measure. So this measure, when let's say for example I use standard deviation, when I use the standard deviation, I get to know, right, how much the values are deviated from the mean value, how inconsistent, right? So this one will help you to understand whether the given data set, is consistent or inconsistent, right? With that, we can find out the consistency, right? With that, right? To understand this further, right? How the measures of spread is very much helpful. I'll give you one simple, the example analogy. Okay. I mistakenly closed it, not a problem. So here, let's see, you are a businessman, you are doing a business in a small village, okay, small village, and you are in this village, let's say hypothetically 1,000 households are there, families, okay, households, 1,000 families are there in this village, and all these, most of the guys, they come and buy it from your shop. Only few, right, rarely they go and buy it from the nearby town, but going to the nearby town is an expensive thing for them. 95% of the people, most of them, they buy it from your shop. Hence, your business is your business. This guy's business prospered like anything. Is so bullish. Okay. Now, this shop owner, he wants to expand his business to the nearby village, because not only this village A people are purchasing from him, even from the nearby village, right? People are coming here and purchasing from him. But still, there are some, right, 50% of the customers, they go to the nearby town to purchase it. Okay, instead of coming here, some customers, they go there. So now you want to expand the business to the nearby village also. In order to do that, so you wanted to physically visit that village and you want to conduct some market study, and then based on the market study, right, outcome of the market study, you will decide whether you are going to set up the shop or not here. Fine. Now you and your, let's say you are going to, you decide to go to the village, physically you want to visit and run some survey with those villages to find out the pulse of the customers, right, or the people in that village. And along with you took another guy, he's a data scientist. Okay. And both of you are carrying a laptop, right? So now both of you decide to go to this village. On the end route to the village, there is a river here, a big river is there, right? You are, let's say now, you both these guys are standing on the bank of this river, right? Right, in order to reach this village, they have to cross this river. Either they have to cross it by walk, or they have to use, or they can use a boat. Whether can I cross the river by my feet or by boat? So this is the decision you need to take. Let's say this person is you, and you want to decide whether you want to cross the river by feet or by boat. Because let's say, both of your height is 4.7 feet only. Both these guys, height is 4.7 feet. They are not so tall. And what this guy is doing, right, he is calling another guy before crossing the river, and he is asking me, hey man, what is the average depth of the river? This guy says the average depth of the river is 4.5 feet. Now he says, hey, it's good, man. The average depth of the river is just 4.5 feet. And we both of us are 4.7 feet. When we reach a place where the depth is 4.5 feet, we will keep the laptop on top of our head so that it will not get drenched. Hey, come on, let's go. Let's both of us cross the river by feet. Why do we need a boat? Now, this guy is a data scientist. He says, hey, wait, man, let's not go by the average. This is the average. We cannot go by the average. And he asks some more information from him. Hey, tell me, every 100 feet length, right? Every 100 feet length, what is the depth? He says, this guy now says, first 100 feet, it is 1 feet, and 1.8 feet, and 2 feet. But at one point in time, he says 4.3 feet, and right, likewise, it goes on, and suddenly it says 5 feet, and somewhere it is 6 feet. These guys are 4.7 and 6 feet definitely both these guys will get drenched and laptop will also get drenched. But the assume that these two guys don't know swimming, and both of them will get drenched. See now, this guy being a data scientist, he saw, he asked more, more data. With that, he plotted this in his mind. Okay, somewhere. Okay, if you take, see, you have more smaller values. Somewhere he says, 1.6 or 1.5 and 1.9. Since you have more smaller values, when you take the average, it comes around 4.5. Okay, but the outlier is there here. Okay, but right, even though you have outlier only or oddly two values are there, but most of the values are smaller, hence this one is somewhat, you get 4.5 feet, right? But when you plotted this in his mind, right, this guy says, man, these 5 and 6 feet are there, it is not logically correct crossing the river by feet. Better let us use a boat to cross the river. Otherwise, the laptop, expensive laptop, will get drenched. Let's not take the risk. Whether we can take the risk or not, right? For that, you need to know the distribution, right? So by knowing the distribution, you can say, hey man, the mean is there in the middle, 4.5 and 5, right? This one is zero point 0.5 feet more than the average, and 1.5 feet is above the average. Hence, it is not the correct decision to cross the river by feet. Let's use the boat, right? So that is the reason why you need to know the spread also. The spread, right? Measures of spread or measures of dispersion, we should be knowing it. If you just know uh, when to take mean, when to use median, and you cannot simply rely only on these two measures. In addition to these measures, you need to know the spread also. So how do I measure the spread? That is where we have something called range, and we have something else called standard deviation, range. Using these measures, we can see. In this case, oddly, we have few data, right? If you have huge volume of data, do you think it is practically possible to plot it everything in your brain? You cannot, right? So standard deviation. These are the measures we'll be using it. Range, standard deviation, and coefficient of variation. Coefficient of variation, right? In addition to uh, the measures of central tendency, you are using the measures of spread also. These are the measures. Range. What is range? How do I compute the range? The maximum value minus the minimum value is called your range. What is standard deviation? How do you compute? We will see that how we can compute a standard deviation little later. Before that, let's try to understand what is range. Supposing you have two different data set A and data set B. In data set A, you have something called 2, 8, 18, 1, and 10. And data set B, you have something else called 6, 12 and 2, and let's you have something called 1, and you have something else called 18. These two data sets are not exactly same, or we can say 11 here. Okay, 11. Okay, so these two data are exactly not same. But if you use the range, if you apply the range on these two data set, what is the maximum value here? The maximum value is 18, right? What is the minimum value here? Minimum value is 1 here. Hence, the range is how much? 17. This is what the range for this data. Similarly, if you look at here, what is the maximum value here? 18. Let's say this is 1 here, okay? 18 minus 1, it is 17. The range in both the data set, the range is 17. That means the 17 is nothing but, how spread out the data, right? Or whether it is too much of spread or whether it is this much like this. So let's say this is my range 17. Okay, the spread is something like this. If somebody tells you, right, for this data set, the range is 17. Oh, it is this much wide. You will tend to think. Supposing I have bigger value something 180. This is my outlier, right? This is my outlier. This is my outlier. If I apply range here, what will happen? 180 minus 1, 179. But when you look at the data, right, the rest of the data, most of them are somewhat closer compared to this one, right? If you plot something without this outlier, it will be like this. But after including the outlier, the data gets skewed like anything, right? Skewed like anything. It make you to think it is too wider. 180 instead of 17, you think if somebody says 180, in your brain, right, you think, hey, it is too wide. Larger the value, larger the spread. Lesser the range, lesser the spread. Though most of the values are closer, just because one value is very bigger, when you use range, in this case, right, it makes you to think 180. That means lot of volatility is there. It is misleading, right? If you have an outlier in your data set, and if you use range takes into account of only the maximum and minimum, only two values it takes into account. It makes you to think. So that's what that is the drawback of range. If you have an outlier in a data set, the spread will be misleading if you use the measure range. Okay, what other alternatives are there? What other options I have? We can use standard deviation. Even standard deviation also sensitive to outlier, but how it is helpful compared to range, we will see to that now. Okay, let's take the data set. Let's say in my data set, my data set name is X. I have something like 2, 4. I'll take only the even numbers for the sake of computing the average, right? And I'm taking something like 8, and I take something like 4. And okay, and let's say now if you compute the average or the mean is nothing but the average, right? So the mean, I use the notation x bar for because it's a sample data. So 10, 24. 24, right? Wait, 10 and 24. Yeah, 24 divided by 5. Okay, let's take another value. Okay, let's say 5, right? So what is the value I'm going? 4.8. This is my average. In the case of standard deviation, right, you need to subtract this mean value from each and every values in your data set or data points. Okay, x is my actual value. What is my mean? Mean is nothing but the x bar, x minus x bar. So 2 minus 4.8 and 4 minus 4.8, 6 minus 4.8 and 8 minus 4.8 and 4 minus 4.8. And if you do something like that, you will get negative value, negative 2.8, negative 2.8, and you will get 1.2, positive 1.2, and here 5, right? So yeah, 3.2 plus 3.2, and here negative zero point 0.8, right? 0.8, 0.8 minus. So the formula for what as per the formula, what you need to add all these values. When you add all these values, what will happen? The plus and minus will get subtracted, right? Minus 2.3.2, right? This one will get subtracted. All the negative value will get added, and it will get subtracted from all these positive values, right? I don't want that to happen. I don't want values should be, I don't want these values to be subtracted. So for that, what I do is I square these values. So minus 2.8 into minus 2.8, what will happen? Minus into minus will become plus. So you will get some value, okay? And similarly here, right? So I square all the values, x minus x bar. It's hypothetically you are getting some value. Okay, what is the 2.8 and 2.8? You have calculator. Let me use my mobile calculator. Okay, and 2.8 into 2.8, 7.84, right? So this one is plus 7.84, and this one will become 7.4 and 12, right? So 12 is 240, right? 2.44, and 3.2 into 3.2, you'll get 10.24, 10.24, and minus negative, or the negative value of 0.8, right? 0.8, yeah, 64, 6.4, right? This one will become 6.4. If you add all these value, you will get something like that. 7.84 into 2 times, right? 15.68 plus 2.44 plus 10.24 and plus 6.4, 34.76. This is nothing but your x minus x bar whole square. Very simple. You take the mean of your data set, subtract the mean from each and every value, and square them. Why do we have to square these values? X minus x bar, because the positive and negative values, we don't want that, we don't want that to get subtracted. Hence, we square the value. This is nothing, right? And this is my x minus x bar whole square divided by n, divided by small n. What is n? Total number of samples. 2, 4, 5, right? So divided by 5. This is nothing but my sigma squared. We use the term called sigma squared. This is nothing but the variance. Variance is nothing but the sigma squared. Sigma squared is nothing but x minus x bar whole square divided by n. And 34.76 divided by 5. How much you will get? The divided by 5, right? You will get 29.64, something like that, right? 29 point. This is what your variance. So the next one is, if you take the square root of this one, right? 29.44, and if you take the square root of this one, right? So you will get something like, yeah, if you take the square root on both sides, see in our case, right, sigma squared is nothing but the variance, 29.64 is the variance, right? If you take the square root on both sides, what will happen? This one will get cancelled out. Something like 2 squared is 2, right? If you take the square root of 2 squared, 2 will be there. Sigma here, okay? And here, square root of 29.64. Okay, this is what your this thing, right? Let's do one thing. Excel. Let me open the Excel. So you need to take, when you take the square root of the variance, this is my variance 29 points. You take the square root, that is nothing but your standard deviation. This is what the formula. This you can this you can learn it from the internet, right? Many websites are there. Even YouTube also, available videos. Many videos are. It's very simple. Now, what is so big deal about it, right? So this formula, I can learn it from the website here. How can this training program can help me to understand from the application point of view, from the business point of view, how can I use this standard deviation? You might have heard about this one, right? So what is the standard deviation of last 5 weeks sale? First week, first week one sale standard deviation is 18.24 $1 million. Okay, and second week, this is my standard deviation, 16.24. So what the hell is this values? How can I interpret this? Formula, everything is fine. That is there in the book. That is academic thing. How it is helpful for me to make the decision? Tell me about that, right? I'll just give you one simple example. Okay. For example, you are an e-commerce player. I use this simple example. for anybody can understand. Okay, let's say you are e-commerce player. You recently launched your e-commerce website. Let's say like a GeoMart, right? GeoMart is very popular now. They give a lot of discount. Their app, right? If you go and book it, they will not. They don't charge the delivery thing. Delivery charge is not there in their website. A lot of discount they give. Likewise, you launched your own app, and you are an e-commerce player. You are selling the products in Chennai. But right, yours is a startup company. When you started, your company, listen, in 2019, you hardly have 20 people, right? This is what your workforce. In your workforce, you had only 20 people were there. And in your workforce, you hardly have 20 employees were there. So in the early 2019, you used to get close to 50 orders per month. With the 20 employees, you are able to deliver these 50 orders. Let's say you are selling all the items only in Chennai. You are able to sell 50 or you are able to deliver 50 orders within Chennai with this workforce. The later part of 2019, late 2019, the orders have increased. Let's 100 orders. Still, you are able to manage with 20 people. In 2020, early 2020, right? Per month, you started getting 1,000 orders. Do you think you can deliver the 1,000 orders with this workforce? It is highly impossible, right? You can deliver it, but you will miss the SLA. What is SLA? Service level agreement. You promise to the customers saying that on or before 3 days you will deliver the items. Three or before three, right? Less than or equal to three. Yeah, less than or on or before 3 days we deliver the items, whatever you order it from us. This is what the SLA you promise to the customers. But with this given workforce, you could not deliver it. So what you are doing is, you're a smart guy. You make the decision within 1 hour or 2 hour. What you do is, you call two courier companies. One is the desk to desk courier. Another guy is Blue Dot, right? Blue Dot. Okay, and you call these two guys, and then you explain them, hey guys, the we are getting more orders with the existing workforce. We are not to deliver it on time, so we need your help to deliver these orders. But the SLA is on or before 3 days. You need to deliver it. Even if you don't deliver it before the third day, that is fine. At least make sure that you are delivering within, on the third day itself, at least. So these guys are okay with this because they got business from you and they agreed. They signed the contract. They started delivering the items. Okay, they started delivering the items, and the business is going well. So far, so good. The off late, you started getting a lot of complaints from the customers. When you started looking at the feedback given by the customers in your website, you are not so happy. Okay, the customers who are not happy, because of that you are not happy, and you are breaking your head, right? So why customers? But customers, most of the customers raise the concern saying that the products were not delivered on time. It took longer time. So what you are doing is, you are calling the data analyst. Hey, you want him to analyze it. So where the problem, and you take randomly 10 orders, or desk to desk courier, and this guy is your Blue Dot, right? Take the last 10 days shipment duration, or right, or the delivery time took by these two guys. Okay, randomly this data analysis took that last 10 days data, and some customer, this guy delivered in 3 days, and other guy 3 days, and randomly, right, randomly 3.5, it took 3.5 days, right, for some customer, and again third day, and three. So how many threes, right? Almost 18.5 divided by 6. Close to 3 point, 3 point, um, 0.5, right? 3.8 days. Okay, let's say, hypothetically, let's say, 3.5, right? Or 18. Yeah, 18 or listen to 3 days. On an average, 3 days. My X bar is 3 days. This guy delivered it on listen to this 3.2 days, right? The fourth day morning by 10 a.m. he delivered it 3.2. Approximately on an average 3 days it comes. But when you look at the blue dot, so right, you could see that some customer did 1 day, and some customer they delivered in half a day, and 1 day, and again 1 day some customer they do 6 days. And when you take the average, what will happen? For 10, 11, 11.05 divided by 6. All right. So you might tend, if you take the average, what will happen? Um, or let's say, you have 2, 6, right? Or let's say, yeah, 5. Let's say 4 days. Okay, 4. 10, 11, 12, 13. 13.05. Still, right? 2.1. 1 is 10 or 2.1 approximately. When you see it here, right? So this is 4 days and 6 days. What is the SLA? Less than or on or before 3 days, they're supposed to deliver. But when you look at this data, let's say you're in your Excel sheet, right? In the Excel sheet, in the first sheet, you'll see lot of ones and 0.5. Obviously, you will tend to think blue dot is really doing good job, right? Blue dot is really doing good. Anybody, when they look at the data, right? 0.5, superficially, when they look at this data, they'll tend to think, man, oh, this guy is awesome, man. And when you ask this guy, data analyst, hey, what is the average delivery time by blue dot? He says your data analyst is 2.1. And the desk to desk, average delivery in 3 days. Still, they are these two guys, they delivered it on or before 3 days, but this guy delivered it exactly on the third day, but this guy, he outperformed, right? He did a phenomenal job. See, try to understand this. Here we are using average, here also we are using average. When you use average, you tend to think both of them are really doing good job. But when you take a standard deviation, see what happened, the data analysis compared to D2DC and blue dot is performance is outstanding. Okay, listen very carefully. It's a very interesting one. Okay, but when you take the standard deviation, right? The standard deviation 0.241, but here, right? So 1.845. This is the standard deviation for this data set. For this data set, this is the standard deviation. The lesser the standard deviation, lesser the variation. Higher the standard deviation, the variation is. Though they delivered it well ahead of the schedule, they messed up, for some customers, right? They messed up with some customers. Especially these customers are my potential customers. At least these guys are one-time customers. These guys are my regular customers. Here, they messed up. See, in this case, hardly we have few data. Let's say in your Excel sheet, in the first page, right, you see a lot of 0.5. In the when you scroll down, only when you scroll down, if you see 4, 6, what will happen? When you look at the first page, right, you tend to think blue dot is really good. And also when you perform the average, you tempted to think blue dot is really awesome. But only when you take let's data scientist, what he says, hey, don't go by the average alone. We need to check the spread. Use the measure standard deviation. He uses standard deviation and he tells, hey, this guy is not good, this guy is good, though he delivered it on time. This guy is good, he never missed the SLE. But here, though you delivered it well ahead of the schedule, he messed up. Too much of variation. Sometimes he delivered it in half a day time, 1 day. That is fine. See, even if you perform well, it is fine. Even if you make one small issue, the customer will that they exacerbate that, right? They exaggerate that. So in that case, what will happen is, right, you are very particular about. So this guy is a lot of inconsistency is there. So using standard deviation, we can compare the data set. We can compare the data set. See, using standard deviation, measures of spread only, we are able to spot the problem. Let's say as a CEO, let's say you are a CEO of this company, and if a data analyst, literally because he doesn't know standard deviation. Okay, he says, hey, 3 days on average, 3 days and 2.1 days. You started thinking, hey, we are doing good job. These two guys are really doing good job. But if you continuously, rely on the data analyst interpretation, you're gone. Customers will definitely walk out of your business, right? So let's say you have a data scientist, and at one point in time, you don't rely on the data analyst. You call the data scientist. He instantly found it. So he used the standard. Sir, boss, lot of inconsistencies there here. Okay, with the help of data scientists, with the help of standard deviation, you are able to spot where exactly the problem is happening at the right time. If you find the problem at the right time, you can take the course correction then and there. So now what happens? The CEO calls this blue dot CEO and tells him, "Hey guys, lot of inconsistency is there. Okay, and if this continues, I'm going to discontinue the service from you, or you may have to pay penalty." See how the measures are spread is helpful, right? You can use the formula, okay? The standard deviation, right? You have SD function is available in Excel sheet also, STD dev, okay? And within that, you take the column, you will find something like this, okay? More value, but here less value. So in that case, what happens? Higher the standard deviation, higher the inconsistency. Using standard deviation, we can compare the data set. We are done with it, right? But in the case of standard deviation, we are taking into account of each and every value because we are subtracting the mean from each and every value, and then we square them, and then finally we add all the squared values and we take the square root. That is what your standard deviation, right? That is what see, we squared all the values, right? That is what your standard deviation. With the help of the standard deviation, you are able to find out. Yeah, what is the difference between range and standard deviation? In the range, we are taking into account of only the maximum value and the minimum value. Whereas in the case of standard deviation, we are taking into account of each and every value, right? And then you take the average, you subtract the average from each and every value, and then you square it, and then you add all the values, and then again you divide that by the number of data points and take the square root. That is what is standard deviation. Higher the standard deviation, higher the inconsistency, higher the spread is too wide. See how it helps you, right? It helps you to make the right decision. If you know only so now you understood how worthwhile learning statistics in addition to your present data analytical skills, right? Whatever the report the management asked, you generated it. You did the grand total and subtotal. You applied the tax, sorry, profit after tax, before tax, right? That is the report you used to give it to them. In addition to that, if you tell them, right, so here in this branch too much of inconsistency is there, so it needs special attention. Probably we can deploy a different manager, replace the existing manager, and see how the new manager is or experienced manager will put it here, so that if you monitor the sales with the experienced sales manager for do specific duration, if you see the variation is very less, that means we are consistently really doing good job here. Some days we are selling very low value, some days we are selling very high, right? Something like. So using standard deviation, we can compare the data set. Using range also, we can compare the data set, but range is also sensitive to outlier, whereas standard deviation also sensitive to outlier. But in the case of standard deviation, we are taking into account of each and every data, and using standard deviation, right, we can find out, how much each value is deviated. So what is the average here? Let's say in this case 3, right? See the average mean value is 3 here. The middle, right? Middle value is 3. And most of the values are falling in the 3 only when it comes to desk courier. But when you look at this data set, right? Blue dot. So zero point 0.5 and here 1, right? So what is the mean value is 3. 3 minus 0 0.5. What is that? 2.5. So this value is 2.5. This data point, the 0 0.5 is 2.5. um, it is two, yeah, it is deviating from the mean, right? 2.5, the distance between this one and this one, 2.5. Similarly, you take, but using mean, right? In the case of standard deviation, we are using mean, right? Because we are subtracting the mean from each and every value. With the help of the mean, we can tell now how much value is falling above the mean, how much value is falling below. So 2.5, is this value is 2.5. The deviation of this one is 2.5, right? Let's say you have another value is 6, right? 6 minus 3 is 3. 3 standard deviation. This one is the 3 standard deviation above the mean. 6 minus 3, because the mean is 3, right? You need to subtract the value from this 3 plus 3. So this value is 3 standard deviation above the mean. With the help of the standard deviation, we can find out how each value is deviating from the mean. But in the case of range, you are not using mean. Hence, you don't know, how much, each value is, how far it is deviating from which value. You don't have any bounded values there. That is also another drawback of range. But when it comes to standard deviation, you can tell very clearly how each data point is deviating from the mean. How much value, right? So here the 6 is 3 standard deviation above the mean. Something like that you can tell. Again, I've been talking continuously. Okay, if you have any doubts, you can interrupt me. Okay, using standard deviation, we can compare the data set. Similarly, range, but range is sensitive to outlier. But even standard is also sensitive to outlier. But standard deviation takes into account each and every value. And also using standard deviation, you can tell, right, how far each value is deviating from the mean. That is also one advantage of standard deviation. And other advantage of standard deviation is something like this. Okay, let's say we have something called Chebyshev theorem. Listen very clearly. You can also learn it from by watching more than one videos in YouTube, but you will it'll confuse you. Okay, end of the day, you don't know. You might be understanding the theorem. You must be learning the theorem, but you don't know when to use. Okay, you'll get. Hence, I suggest you to watch this topic very carefully. See, in Chebyshev's theorem, right? If you remember these three number, 65, 95, and 99. Okay, and yeah. So what the scientist, right, statistician Chebyshev, he developed a theorem 65, 95, 99 with these three values. Okay, so we know what is normal distribution, right? I'll just draw the bell curve here. Let's say my normally distributed data. My data is something like this. When I plotted the data, it is something like this. Okay, this is my normally distributed data. We know the mean is there in the middle. So hence, see, now I'm going to say, instead of using x bar, right, population mean, we use the notation mu. Mu is there in the middle in the case of normally distributed data. Okay. Again, it is hanging my system. Let me finish up quickly. Okay, let me do one thing. So what he did, right, he splitted this normally distributed curve into three different parts. The other one is something like this. Okay, and the other one is something like this. It is hanging. My system is hanging. Yeah, so now the other one is like this. Okay, so what Chebyshev he said, right, this area, covers, sorry, it is not, one second, let me just, okay, one second, yeah. What he said, right, according to his theory, this area covers the 65% of the data, okay? And the green colored one, this one covers 95% of the data. Entire. This the green colored one, right? This one covers between here to here, here to, let's say, here. Sorry. Here to here, okay? This one covers 90% of the area, okay? And here, this is my one standard deviation. Sorry, my system is hanging, please bear with me. Okay, with this I'm going to wrap up. I'll clean up, do some kind of 1 sigma, and this is your 2 sigma, and the red colored one, right, on the right side, that is 3 sigma. 1 sigma, 2 sigma, 3 sigma. This is my 2 sigma, this is my 3 sigma. On the left side, minus 1 sigma, minus 2 sigma, minus 3 sigma. You might have heard about the 6 sigma projects and all, right? Minus 2 sigma, minus 3 sigma. You need to add these two values, mu plus 1 sigma, mu plus 2 sigma, mu plus 3 sigma. What Chebyshev's theorem says is the plus or minus 1 standard deviation covers 65% of my population data. And the plus or minus 2 standard deviation covers 90% of my population data, and plus or minus 3 standard deviation covers 99.9% of the data. This plus or minus 3 standard deviation covers, listen very carefully, because in YouTube and other blogs, right, you have to read so many blogs and so many videos to understand this simple concept, okay? The plus or minus 1 standard deviation covers how much space? 65% of the space, right? And plus or minus 2 standard deviation covers 95%, plus or minus 3 standard deviation covers 99% of the data. Now the question is, okay, this is fine. How it is helpful for me in the case of business, right? How it is helpful? Supposing you are a project leader or manager, including you, 20 people are there in your project. Let's say in your company, there is a medical camp that is going on. Every employee has to undergo medical checkup, right? It is mandated by the management. Let's say, the all employees, including you, you are undergoing medical checkup. Okay, so those guys, right? The doctors are there, and they check, right? As part of their medical thing, right? They check the blood pressure, and they check the heart rate, right? So let's this guy's heart rate is 72. This guy's heart rate is 84. Heart rate varies from person to person. We know this guy's heart rate is 98. Maybe he's a project leader. Okay, right? This guy's heart rate is 78, and this guy's heart rate is 1 or 2. Some, right? Different people have different heart rate. At end of the day, 20 people, 20 employees in your project, they checked, they recorded each person's heart rate. You recorded each person's heart rate, and you took the average of all these heart rate. Let's say your average comes around 70. Sorry, 70. Your average is 70. Average is 70, and you are taking the standard deviation. Okay, your standard deviation is 10. How much average? Average heart rate of your 20 people in your team's heart rate is 70. The average heart rate of your team is 70, and the standard deviation is 10. Now you go back to this one. What is the average heart rate? 70. What is sigma? Sigma is nothing but your standard deviation. What is the sigma? 1 into 10. So you need to, so one standard deviation above, that means mu plus 1 sigma. So what is mu? 70 plus 1 into 10. So 80, right? So this guy is right. Sorry, this one is plus. Yeah. Similarly here, if you come mu minus one sigma on the left side, 70 minus 1 into 10 is 10. How much you'll get? 60, right? So how do I interpret this one? The plus or minus 1 standard deviation covers. See the so okay. My employees heart rate covers, right, start from 60 to 80, or 65% of my employees heart rate ranges between 60 to 80 at plus or minus 1 standard deviation. This is how you need to see. If you tell your management what is Chebyshev's theorem, as per Chebyshev's theorem, the plus or minus 1 standard deviation covers 65% of the area, and plus or minus 2 standard deviation covers 95%, plus or minus 3 standard deviation covers 99 point some value. Do you think they'll be happy about this theorem? They'll say, man, don't teach me all these things. You tell me, what is your understanding? You are a statistician, you tell me. So what message you need to convey it to him? So this is the message you can convey to him, right? You are telling him, hey, 65 percentage out of the 20 employees, right? Or 65% of the 20 employees, heart rate ranges between 60 to 80 uh, at the plus or minus 1 standard deviation. With plus or minus 1 standard deviation, this is the range of heart rate. And 95% of employees' heart rate ranges between 50 to 90. This is 20, right? So yeah, 90, right? Here 100, right? 70 plus 30, how much? 100, right? 70 minus 30, how much? 40 here. So 99 percentage of my team's heart rate ranges between 40 to 100 with plus or minus 3 standard deviation. This is how you need to, this is a message, takeaway message for your business stakeholders. Still, it is kind of a vague thing. Let's say, let's take another manufacturing example. Right? Let's say, you are a manufacturer, and your friend is running a big, let's say, is running a big manufacturing company. And let's say you are a subcontractor to this manufacturing company. Because of the gesture of goodwill, this guy is outsourcing certain things. Okay, let's say he's asking, this guy is manufacturing, let's cars. Okay, all these most of the spare parts that are required for the cars, he is manufacturing it and then he is assembling it. But there are certain parts. Let's take a simple example: screws, right? Screws and bolts and screws. He is not manufacturing it. He doesn't have manpower, he doesn't have that machine also. And what he does is he is giving it to you. Hey, can you manufacture the screws and bolts? I'll give it to you because in the past you delivered it on time with more quality. Hence I give you this time, the what do you say, the I'll outsource you this one. Okay, so you need to produce 100,000 screws, and he tells you, okay, he gives you the specification. Let's you are ordering a computer table, right, with a carpenter. You have to give the specification, how, what is the length and height and width of the computer table, how many drawers you need to have, whether you need to have lock or not, which brand of lock that needs to be. These are all specification. Likewise, this car manufacturer, right, he gives you the specification. A, you need to produce, you need to give me 100,000, you need to produce 100,000 screws, and each screw, the diameter of each screw is supposed to be 3 inches, something like that. Okay, 3.2 inches, something like that. Okay, it could be between 3.2 to 3.4. He gives the referral range, like in the blood report they give the referral range, right? Same way they give the, each screw should be measured between these two, right? So you need to produce 100,000 screws, and he puts a rule very clearly. Okay, you need to deliver it on or before 3 days. Okay, so but what you do is you take 3 days time, and each screw should be the diameter or height, the height of the screw The diameter of the screw should be between so and so range. It should be like this. What I do is, once you manufacture the screws, what see he puts a condition, another condition, this core manual. Once you manufacture all these, once you complete the production of 100,000 screws, what I will do is I will send my supervisor or quality inspector. He will randomly pick up the screws, 100 screws. 100 screws he will randomly pick up, and he will measure it. They will measure it using vernier caliper. Whether the screw, whatever this, whether the screws produced by you is on par with the specification which I gave it to you. But they will randomly pick up 100 screws and they will measure it. Okay, and let's see you are the quality inspector. You measured it and you tell your manager here, right? So let's say you came here for inspection and inform. Now you are communicating back to this your company manager saying that, hey, 95 percentage of the area, which is nothing but 95%, sorry, 99% of screws manufactured by your subcontractor is falling within this range with plus or minus 3 standard deviation. 99% of the screws manufactured by them are falling between this range. Then he will think, okay, under screws we took randomly, 99% of the screws were falling between these two range. When they plotted this one, right, they say, okay, 99% of screws were falling between these two ranges. Hence, right, so now what he says, okay, man, now it is for 99% of screws manufacturers falling within this range. Hence, I'm going to, you can ship it to me. We are going to take it up. If it is not falling within this range, I'm going to reject the entire lot. See, the risk is very big, right? At least, uh, with even with 99 percentage, 99% of the screws manufactured by us not falling within this range, right? At least 95% of the screws with plus or minus two. Now he asks this guy, okay, with plus or minus two standard deviation, at least you can, because if I reject the entire lot, it is a huge loss for him. Let's try to create a win-win situation with plus or minus two standard deviation. What is the variation? Now he says with 95% of the screws manufactured by him is falling between this range. Then you will say, right, okay, 5%, I have to bear the brunt, okay, because I don't have time to produce 100,000 screws within 3 days, because I need to deliver these are all battery operated cars. Chennai Corporation ordered the battery operated cars, almost, let's say, 1 lakh cars, right? He has to deliver it in 3 days time. Because the time constraint, he is okay with this risk. 5% of the cause the screws manufacturer is not good. I have to bear the brunt. Okay, 95% at least that is good. Even if it is not within this, only 65% of screws manufacturing is good, then it is not. I have 35% risk if I buy it from him, right? Sorry, how much? Yeah, 45% of the risk alert. So it will help you to understand how much risk you are taking it. 5% is okay, 1% is okay, right? But 45%, hence you are going to reject this thing. Sorry, man, I cannot help it, because whatever the screws which you give it, right, 45% is not worthwhile for us. We cannot use it. Hence, it is a waste of money for us. Okay, it will not be approved by upper management. Hence, I have to reject it. By taking randomly 100 screws, right, you are generalizing the population with the help of Chebyshev's theorem. And also, you can give the referral range. See, you might be arguing with me, is Satya, by randomly taking this 100 screws, and if I measure it using vernier caliper, and if it is not falling within this range, I'm going to reject it. If it is not falling within this range, these 100 screws which I took it randomly, then why the hell should I use the Chebyshev's theorem and all, right? It's a common sense. But in the worst case scenario, right, within this range, you are going to the next step. You are trying to help him, right? And also given the time constraint of, right, given of you, right? Given the time constraint for you, you are okay to accept some kind of substandard thing also. But what you are saying is, at least you tell me with 95 percentage, 90% of screws manufactured is falling in this range. If he says yes, then so that is where the Chebyshev's theorem is very much helpful. You can use it in the case of manufacturing, thing, and the defects related thing, right? You can use this one, Chebyshev's theorem. See, standard deviation is helpful in Chebyshev's theorem also, right? You can use standard deviation. Apart from this, using standard deviation, compare the data set and using Chebyshev's theorem between the specific standard deviation, plus or minus one standard deviation, plus or minus standard deviation. You can, right, with that you can make some decision, right? How much risk you are okay to take. 5% is risk, I'm okay to take. There will be some kind of, see, none of the software company, they promises the code delivered by them is 100% bug free, right? Nobody says, even Infosys, they never say 100% of the code delivered by them is bug free, right? There will be bug, right? But how much is there? So that is where the Chebyshev's theorem is coming into picture. It will be very much helpful. With that, you can tell. And apart from this standard deviation, using standard deviation, right, you can perform risk analysis in the case of stock portfolio also, stock portfolio and all. Okay. For example, you have Wipro. You want to invest on Wipro and Infosys stocks, but you cannot take a risk. You don't want to lose more money, right? The options and what is that option, futures and options, in futures and option, the stock, right? If you invest money, what will either, it's a kind of a risk and reward, right? Either you may lose huge money or you may get very high money. In the case of future and option, you have something called put and all, is there, right? When you invest there, the risk is also more, the reward is also more. In case you are not lucky, you lose, big money. You will lose big money, right? So now you want to decide. So let's say you don't want to go by future and options. Okay, you are a risk averse person. You want to avoid the risk. Let's say you are plotting the data of the Wipro shares. Let's here the sorry yeah, let's here something like this and something like this. Let's say this is where you make an entry. No, what is entry, right? You purchase it here. Let's say the stock price is 400. You purchase this one, and someday, right, it goes 450. And sometimes when you look at when you analyze, when you perform the technical analysis, right? So you see 400 and right, so 410. So this is where you make an entry. You purchase the equity. If I purchase here, the worst case scenario also, I can get 10 rupees profit per share. The best case scenario, I can get 450. Whereas in the case of Infosys, right, the stock price is 3000 and odd, right? 3000. This is if I make an entry here. So what happens is the price goes higher. 3000, right? So 3200 or 3500. Listen, 3500. And suddenly it goes like this. Too much of volatility. Suddenly it goes up, right? So when you look at this, right, by using standard deviation, if you see the variations too much here, obviously, if you are a risk averse person, you don't want to take the risk, right? Obviously, you can go and invest in the Wipro itself. Even in the worst case scenario, at least, right, I will get the money, my principal money back, 400 here. The worst case scenario, right? It is not going below this one. It never went below this one. It is varying between this one. But here the variation is too high. Suddenly it goes up, falls down, down, suddenly again it rises, right? So if you make an entry here and if you wait and if the price goes up, let's say 3,300, and if you wait for some more time to move this further, right? Suddenly that falls down, what will happen? Gone. So in the case of risk analysis, also standard deviation is used, and even the insurance companies, they are using standard deviation. Okay, it's already it's going to be 11 o'clock. What we will do is I will cover the coefficient of variation in tomorrow's session. Okay, tomorrow between 6 to 8, this weekend, Saturday and Sunday, right? I will put you with the ongoing batch, and you all can join the ongoing batch. This is what I covered. Okay, but apart from this, I discussed about the introduction to the analytics. Okay, that probably will, I'll once again discuss when I start the data science algorithms. Okay, the machine learning algorithms. Okay, at this moment, you're all set to join with the ongoing batch. Okay, the weekend batch, 6 to 8. Henceforth, we'll continue the weekend batch. Okay, the 6 to 8. I'll send you the agenda probably little later. Okay, and also the meeting invite. Okay, meeting invite will be different. I will send you that. I'll forward that one also. Okay, any questions so far?
No, sir. Actually, good.
Yeah, so how about Kumar and others, right? So fine, what I will do is I will just share today's I'll upload. So what I would suggest you is I will share the my YouTube channel link. You go and subscribe so that you don't have to rely on me, right? Suppose I might be sleeping late in the night, right? I may be uploading the video, very late in the night. So as soon as I upload the video, you will get the notification once you subscribe to my channel. Okay, go better. You go and subscribe to my channel. I'll also inform you. Okay, once I upload it, right? I'll send a note. So and so link it uploaded. I created a playlist also. You can watch it. Apart from this, I have my website, and currently I'm making some changes to my website with help of some the PHP developers, because they are doing it. But still, you can access my pre-recorded videos. But probably after, see, best thing is you can watch my live sessions video. I'll share it and upload my YouTube channel. You can watch it at this moment. Okay, and the this weekend I'll be covering the coefficient of variation plus the what is that, the percentage quartiles. Okay, and we'll compare all these things. Okay, and then we'll jump into inferential statistics. Okay, we'll discuss about various sampling techniques and what is inferential statistics, why do we need to learn inferential statistics, everything I'll explain it. Okay, fine. Since you don't have any more questions, I'm going to end this.
Satya, one more question. Actually, do you share any training material for that?
Yeah, it is all there in my website, study material. Okay. See,
Okay.
I'll just show you my, you probably take data to business insights in. Data to business insights in. One second. It's all there in my website. You have a lifetime access. I keep make changes to the study materials, especially on the machine learning part. Okay, and statistics, I don't have to make so many changes, because machine learning I keep add more content. Okay, it'll be very exhaustive, and also it'll be very informative, and it'll help you to crack the interview. You don't have to go to other blogs or other YouTube videos. By going through my study material, because it covers everything comprehensively. Just give me a second. My net is bit slow. My laptop also, I don't know, some virus problem is there. I'll address it. This is my website here, Data to Business Insights in. One second. Just give me a second. I'll show you now itself. It will not take this much of time. But sometimes, right, so I hosted my website on GoDaddy. Those guys, right, they take, sometimes they do some kind of admin job, operate the maintenance housekeeping job, okay, on their server. Sometimes you will experience some delay because of their housekeeping. Otherwise, it will be good only. It is not that bad. So once you click the data science course in my website's homepage, right, it will take you something. Like, you ignore about the money and all. Here, there is no rupee currency is there. Okay, don't panic. Okay, it's free only. Don't worry. Okay, so if you go here, right, you will find all the topics. For example, this one. Where is that? Measures of central. If you click this one, That's what I would suggest you literally go by what I teach you when it comes to the descriptive study, inferential study, because I don't want to spend too much of time there because you're not going to get a degree or graduation in statistics. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Right. So it is too exhaustive. It is not required. I'll share the username password credentials. One second. I think I changed it. I'll use my other students' credentials. Shreyas. Yeah, it logged in. So once you log in, right, you just check this and you can see some kind of avatar here, Shaya or something like that. And you click data science course here. It will take you here. Initially, it will show you something like buy course and all, right? You just click it and simply you click it. Okay, you don't have to pay anything. And measures of central tendency. So this is what I covered. If you click this one, since you already logged in, you should be able to view the course content.
Okay.
This is the one, right? So one second. Let me just see it. Now, this is the video, a pre-recorded video. Study material is there here. Study material. This is how you can see, distinguish between the video and study material. You will find some kind of eye kind of thing. That is your
Yeah.
video. This is your study material. You just go here and take a look at this. Okay, it's all very simple one, and I would urge you to watch my video also once again. That is more than sufficient to understand, but still the study materials are available here,
Okay. Sure.
right? Okay, fine. So I'm going to end the session now, and we will circle back tomorrow between 6 to 8. Okay, I'll send the meeting invite everything little later. Okay, bye
Yeah.
bye.
Sure.
Good night.